I'm Gerty mood, back again, that Saturday mood. Well, here I am, I'm back for Saturday, and I thought what I'd do today, change it up, and I would review the Vanity Fair article about this lovely couple, because they're very much in love. This, that, and the bleeding other. So, obviously, I can read bits out to critique, review, and give reaction for. So you can see what it says. The Duke and the Muchness could have had it all, or could have it all. The Montecito home offered all the fresh promises of a 21st century California mansion and the cloistering of a gated neighbourhood from which they could emerge on their own terms. Who's written this bleeding hooey? Anyway, somebody's gone round and this is what they've come up with, so they've done this interview with them. The 14.65 million for more than 18,000 square feet. We've got to have all the details. Details. Half the current median price per square foot in Montecito. I mean, how anal do you have to be before you even know that? You just know she's written this. Anyway, it's supposed to be a journalist, so let's go with that. The oligarch owner's romantic relationship had deteriorated to the point where he was compelled to offload far below market value, according to a source with knowledge. And the property seemed just right for the Duke and the Muchness. Obviously, we know who that is, the Marklet, right? It was the perfect launch pad for Archwell, their non-profit and entertainment studio. An approximation of a part noblesse oblige, part aspiring and independently wealthy mogul Model 1 that Elizabeth, Charles and William rejected by fiat during the January 2020 Sandringham Summit. You know she's written this, don't you? Come on everybody. Come, oh hello, it's me again. It's the lockdown and me and Harry are playing Tutankhamun with toilet rolls. Anyway, so I'm not going to go into this too much. We all know that. It goes on like this. It does go on and on. Harry still works very closely with the charities he founded, the Invictus Games Foundation and Centre Barley. Oh, it's a foundation, is it? Oh, well, there you go then. Tick. That explains all the private jets to get there and back, and the wardrobe of clothes and all the top. What is it, like the Emperor's Suite and something or other in every hotel? Something along those lines. Yeah, we all know Centre Barley. Yes, that's another. Don't say anything about that. The Sussexes have announced Meghan's second podcast, though not the title or the premise of it. Well, I don't think she knows the premise of it. Archwell Productions also recently produced two high-profile Netflix series, a docu-series called Polo, which premiered December the 10th and features the world of Harry's buddy Nacho Figueres and the reality show With Love Meghan. Is that a thing? I've just found out about that. When was this? Thank God I swerved it. The latter is a hospitality endeavour that, according to the Netflix promotional language, reimagines the genre of lifestyle programming, blending practical how-tos and candid conversation with friends, new and old. Or just talking to friends with Candida. It's hard to tell with the Markley, isn't it? 3 days before her show's scheduled... Oh, it's this! Oh, so it's the one that... Yeah, oh, we've missed it. Oh, what a bummer. Anyway, there we go. 3 days before the date of January 15th, Meghan announced the series would push back. Well, Netflix probably told her. Oh, God, just like put the guillotine off for a month. Just any excuse, you know what I mean? Oh dear. They have this navette and their hopefulness about what's possible in terms of storytelling and good works and all those things, says producer Jane Marie, who collaborated with the couple while they developed audio projects at Archwell and later produced a podcast with Michelle Obama. I wish I had that kind of optimism. Optimism abounded as the couple embarked on their Spotify deal in 2020, both for them and for those who were coming in to help do the work. I thought that I had the role of a lifetime, says a person who worked in media projects, who was a fan going in and eager to make the type of life-changing content Harry and Meghan seem to want to create. I thought I was going to be besties with Meghan and Harry and we were going to, run around the world saving people, says this bin. Interest in the couple was unslakable, but it remained to be seen whether they were actually interesting. Emphasis on the ing. Beyond Harry's uniquely difficult upbringing. Oh my God, it was so uniquely difficult. It's terrible. I mean, the kids in the Congo that mine the lithium have had a whip round and they're going to send him some money. So it's such a hard upbringing. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, uniquely difficult, yeah. Years of defending herself from shoddy treatment and racism, whether in the British press or from members of her husband's family. As one former Spotify employee put it, the thing you're escaping is the reason you're compelling. What's that, Spotify employee, Megan? Those stories should be meted out. Oh, yeah, we're here. Meted out in a different media. Breathless reports of 20 million Penguin Random House contract for Spare and 100 million partnership with Netflix. Harry and Meghan. Oh, God, that bleeding car crash. Anyway, according to a representative for Netflix, we don't disclose our financial deals with talent. Who are we talking about now? Oh, that's all right then. You can tell us then, can't you? Because, do you know what I mean? No doubt. Anyway, but I can confirm to you, on the record, that 100 figure is not correct. It's probably £2.50, but they just don't want us to know that. On August 2022 cover of The Cut, haven't they missed out an N? Oh, I think that's a typo. Meghan did to promote her first and only Spotify podcast, Archetypes. She said, I don't think it's supposed to be E, because it would be an I, wouldn't it, if it was Archetypes. Is it Archetypes? Don't care. I'm, so excited to talk. And it's like I'm not finding my voice. I've had my voice for a very long time, but being able to use it. When repeatedly asked by the interviewer what she wanted to say with her newly free voice, Meghan demurred, I have a lot to say until I don't. Do you like that? Sometimes, as they say, the silent part is still part of the song. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I think I've just had a stroke. I've never had to sign anything that restricts me from talking. I can talk about my whole experience and make a choice not to. So that's a fail for it. Right, one of the people who spoke with Vanity Fair for this story says they signed a non-disclosure agreement to be employed by Barry and Meghan. Good for them. A person who works closely with the couple and loves them says, I have no idea what Harry's interests are beyond polo. No clue what his inner life is like. So she's probably on Valium by now, to be honest. Oh dear, let's go on. Yeah, it still goes on. As time passed, it would be nearly 2 years before the couple's deal being signed and the premiere of Archetypes, Spotify, began applying pressure to produce something, anything that people might listen to. Well, I mean, we didn't listen to it, just took the piss, didn't we? To be fair, we did. Right? It goes on and on and on and on. Oh, and there's more. Anyway, the former Spotify employee says it was challenging to engage Harry, and a person who interviewed for a job with the couple says, I just felt like he kind of didn't want to be there doing that at this time. My expectation was charming receiving line, and it was clear he wasn't that person, or at least that day, and at least in the context of hiring a manager. A person who worked on an event during Harry's book tour says he has the greatest manners I've ever seen, hands down. Like I can't believe his knees are as supple as they are. Believe it, darling, believe it. He was getting up and down any time somebody walked into the room. He was unfailingly kind and friendly to everyone. Basically, it pans out that Barry is the archetype of a man-child. He is, and there's a lot of them of that generation about. And he's a gamer boy. He would just like to plug in and play on his Xbox all day, or whatever it is he plays on. During the interview, the potential employee says Harry's attitude was either, well, should I do this? Or, why are we doing this? The interviewee says they wondered, didn't Spotify pay you a lot of money to do this? And the person inside the couple's circle said, in other words, Meghan, he looks like the kind of guy who would, frankly, happily work for charities for the rest of his life and would be very happy if Meghan made all the money and he didn't need to. So, gamer boy, yeah? On his self-titled podcast, Bill Simmons described his experience working with, well, we know that, as effing grifters, we know that. Yet Harry and Meghan became increasingly nervous about how their content would impact them. Marie says, I can't say that they really had great ideas for shows. Interesting pitches, interesting guests. But then, as the deliverers, or either of them as the hosts of these more kind of edgy ideas, would have been like, well, they would have had to move on again. I think it's a combination of self-censorship for good reason and the corporate power that run podcasting that don't know what that is to create valuable shows. Well, I think they want to create shows that are sort of authentic, to coin one of her phrases, and better known phrases. And yes, none of it's authentic. That whole 80s, dare I say, Martha Stewart, it's all done in filters, airy-fairy sort of, look at us all being lovely with one another in somebody else's kitchen. Doesn't work nowadays, it doesn't wash. People have got the reality of the internet, as Lady Colin Campbell said last night on her podcast, on her video, that the internet is like the Great Library of Alexandria, which I must add, I have never in my lifetime got over burning down. They burned it down 3 times, and the last one did it. I mean, the other 2 didn't really help, and I've never got over it, because that would have been the answer to all the questions that are now sort of rumbling around the world, to which we don't seem to have any answers to, darlings, you see. So when she referred to the internet as being like the Great Library of Alexandria, I get her. And yeah, it doesn't wash. People are more used to realism nowadays. I think that's when we've gone from cubism, darlings, to realism. Anyway, podcast, if it's a combination, right, we've done that, haven't we? Sources say the idea for Archetypes came from another employee. Oh my God, she's not giving credit to somebody else, is she? Crikey, that's unheard of. Not Megan. Though the employee came from another employee, she has to add, not Megan. Well, we assume that because this is about her, so... Though the employee didn't own any of the intellectual property, well, I bet she bloody well didn't, you get me, capiche? Archetypes began production in January 21, though the former Spotify employee says the initial expectation was that Archwell would handle productions for the series. The process took so long that Spotify studio Gimlet was called in. Well, we all remember this, it's getting boring. I like this bit. Scanned this earlier. The former Spotify source says Archetypes was complicated as a podcast concept. You had to explain what the archetype was, why the woman embodied it, but also how it wasn't true about her. Every episode was like, this is my friend who has been called that archetype, but is not that archetype. Now, these archetypes, actually stereotypes, included Diva, Mariah Carey, and Bimbo, Paris Hilton. And Lisa Schlesinger or whatever, don't know who that is. As for those friends, in air quotes, there was an expectation that Megan would be able to use her personal Rolodex to book the shows the way hosts like Simmons and the Pod Save America guys do. The person, I've never even heard of them, who are they? Oh, I'm not on Spotify, so that's probably why. The person who worked in media projects says that the assumption was Megan's going to be on the phone with the Pope tomorrow. The former Spotify employee says in addition to Taylor Swift, they heard rumours that Beyonce and Megan Thee Stallion was asked to come on the show and declined. Oh my God, how low do you have to fall? Anyway, other people who worked on the podcast also say they heard those names mentioned, although a source close to the situation says Megan Thee Stallion's team knew nothing about any requests. This is quite specific. It's kind of like blowing smoke, and then just as they get the smoke up through the chimney, they drag it all back down again and have it going through the ashes, don't they? Yeah, that's what it's a bit like. Yeah, it's quite barbed. According to the source in media projects, Megan would agree to provocative ideas and then walk them back. In one episode, she wanted to actually say the word B-I-T-C-H because, as the source remembers Megan saying, you hear it all the time. It ended up with Megan calling it the B word, and an episode entitled Slut, intended to centre on how trans women's sexuality is used against them, was retitled Human Being by Megan and had to be completely reimagined later in production. Every episode got more and more watered down and further away from the actual conversation. That's why it was a shoot show. It was, wasn't it? It was absolute rubbish, I remember it. Obviously, I didn't, you know what I mean, suffer them, but, you know, just saw a bit of them and that's enough. You could glean what she was going to bang on about. Yeah, so be warm in a few... Oh, here we go, love this bit. The source who worked in media projects says Meghan's own relationships with employees tended to follow a familiar pattern. She would be warm and effusive at the beginning, engendering an atmosphere of professional camaraderie. When something went poorly, often due to Meghan and Harry's own demands, such as a teaser for Archetypes being released 5 months before the show premiered and before there was any tape to promote, Meghan would become cold and withholding towards the person she perceived to be responsible. The source said it was really, really, really awful, very painful, because she's constantly playing checkers. I'm not even going to say chess, but she's just very aware of where everybody is on her board, and when you're not in, you are to be thrown to the wolves at any given moment. In practice, they say, that manifested as an undermining. It's a talking behind your back. It's gnawing at your sense of self. Really like Mean Girls, teenager. Marie had different experience with Meghan. She's just a lovely, genuine person, she says. So this is whoever this Marie Bint is. The person who worked in media projects read stories in the tabloids about Meghan bullying, air quotes, Palisades, and couldn't imagine such a behaviour actually happened. After working with her, though, this person realised, oh, any given Tuesday this happened. While it beggars belief that Meghan actually shouted at a Palisade, as has been reported, a person who interacted with her professionally says you can be yelled at even if somebody doesn't raise their voice. It's funny that people don't differentiate between the energy of being yelled at and literally somebody screaming at you. I just want to explore this. You can be yelled at if somebody doesn't raise their voice, but then you can't really say... If you use the word yelled denotes a raising of voice, darling. So I'm not sure... Is it like she talks through pursed lips in an aggressive sort of way like this? That type of thing, maybe. It's hard to sort of differentiate and define, isn't it, with her at any given moment? Especially with her going on, can you describe my guttural utterances? Yes, I can describe them, love. All right. In other words, Meghan was a good person trying to do good things in spite of and at times because of unkind people. The person familiar with the production of Archetypes says at least one employee had a terrible experience, got a handwritten thank you note and gift from Meghan. Is it any surprise that a sense of victimhood and righteousness could continue to exist in a person who had been treated so horribly by the press and her husband's family, not to mention those little B words at the Immaculate Heart? The people whom Meghan may have perceived as enemies or interlopers, members of the loathsome media, or insiders at the palace, or people who actually knew how to make a podcast, or her pitiable father and half-sister selling her secrets and history to tabloids for cash. Don't think they've done that, have they? Might have seemed more powerful than her in some way, despite her immense fame and wealth and privilege. And then whatever happened to them, well, they shouldn't have gotten between Meghan and her good work. As Harry knows, trauma can warp your perspective. And we got her here looking like... Gosh almighty, what is going on in this photograph? On the far right in the white. She's like a Barbie bleeding doll. If she's 42, I'm honestly, move over, Camilla. I'm having your job. Actually, no, scrub that. Oh, here we go. Spare, Harry's best-selling and beautifully written by J.R. Moehringer memoir, chronicles the prince's lonely former life with MRI-level self-examination. I like that. That's clever. If not always top-tier self-awareness, never any self-awareness. Harry recounts an anti-poaching trip to Namibia. Oh, I love this bit. In Namibia, in which he insisted on sleeping outdoors despite his team telling him, "We just saw proof that there are lions out there, boss." Harry claims everyone with him, including a bodyguard, local police, a ranger, and Namibian soldiers who were all there to protect him, went to bed in their tents or trucks rather than stay up to ensure he wasn't eaten by lions in the night. Oh, boom, really? That is, you know, you deserve every bit of that. And the fact that you're now recounting it, expecting us to get a violin out, you little bleeding oik. Oh, like that. What's the point of having all those people to protect you when you're not going to take their advice? You almost deserve to get bleeding eaten by a lion. You're very lucky you didn't. The book also discusses in great detail Harry's issues with his family, opening on his reunion with King Charles and Prince William, who in addition to beloved brother Harry describes as his arch nemesis, possessing a familiar scowl and an alarming baldness. Yeah. I think he should look in the bleeding mirror a bit more. Anyway, I've had enough of this. But it goes on like this, and it goes on. In addition to painting Dorian Gray-style personal portraits of family members in spare, Harry accuses the offices of his brother, father and Camilla of briefing the press. I think we've been here. Is this as a precursor to his court case that's coming up in Britain this week? Obviously, look, I've gone through and I've only, like, a very sort of, like, very small bit. It kind of just goes on and on and on and on. If you Google it and you literally, would rather watch paint dry, there is a choice. You can watch this or read this. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you wherever you are in the world because I'm bored wretched. And I wish it was more concise, but it is like Dostoevsky's and it's far too much. So wherever you are in the world, have I said that? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I love you, each of you, all individually. Tomorrow I'm going to try and do some parodies, but I've just been amazingly and immensely busy today and preoccupied. So I hope you'll forgive me for today, and I will try and do something tomorrow. Well, I will do something because I've got my 6,000 subscribers. Thank you to everybody, and catch you later. Bye-bye now.